Are we live? I think we are. Santhosh? I'm not sure if you can see. Hello? Santhosh? Hello, can you hear me? Let me just try and share the link. Is anyone joining us? I'm not sure if anyone is live as well. Okay, we are live. Okay. I can see Prince's comment here. Hi, Prince. I'm just waiting for Santhosh to join us and we can begin. I think there's some problem from his side.
Okay. Can you hear
me? Hi, Santhosh. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just a little bit lag.
Okay, so I think there's a lag, I think. Okay, so okay, so let me begin. I think there will be a lag. Let me just begin. Can you? Okay, Okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to thank everyone who's watching us. Thank you so much for being here. There is a lag, unfortunately. I'm not sure how we can fix that. This is the first time we are trying out. I hope, Santhosh, you're able to hear us, and I would I don't know, Santhosh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, there's no lag?
Yeah, no lag.
Okay, yeah, it's great. So there's no lag. Okay, so
yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining, Santhosh. Thank you for doing this. So I would like to request you to give a small introduction of yourself to the people watching us.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmad, for hosting this. My name is Santhosh. I studied engineering, electronics and communication, specifically in Ramaya in Bangalore. And right now I am I finished my master's and I'm working at DataProphet as a junior data scientist. So yeah, that's about it. Do you want me to go like in my background?
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, it's a great. So I think you forgot to mention where you did your master's from and what was your master's.
Okay.
Okay, you want to get into that? Okay, let's get into that. So you said you did your bachelor's from MS Ramaya, and I also did bachelor's from MS Ramaya. Though both of us did in electronics, but we were not in the same section, so we really couldn't. So to all those watching, Santhosh is one of my ex-colleague while I was working in Synopsys. We were not in the same team over there as well, but we were good friends there, so we know each other from Synopsys. And later we went on to do our masters. I went to Germany, he went to the Netherlands, and I think he will take over from here. And yes, Santhosh, I would like you to introduce yourself further.
Yeah. So I did my master's in sustainable energy, which is completely different from my bachelor's track that I did at MS Ramaya. But then I wanted to work on something which was helpful for the world, and then I thought transition to renewable energy was something important to work on. And then in my last year of my master's, I was looking into how I could be more productive and helpful to society in general. And then I realized that whatever technologies we have in the energy industry is already out there. It's more about policy and trying to get them into the market. So it's more of a policy related problem rather than a technical problem. So being a technical person, I started delving deep into coding, and then I took a lot of online courses in machine learning. And after that, after in the final year of my master's, to be specific, I did Java specialization. All of these were online courses. None of them was, I didn't go to any institute or something. And then I did machine learning by Andrew Ng, which is on Coursera. Which after that I followed up with deeplearning.ai on Android.
Okay, let me interrupt you for a bit here. So you said you were doing your master's in sustainable energy, which is a good field in itself, and it has like a lot of potential for future growth and all of that. So how and why did you decide to transition into data science?
Okay. So yeah, so as I was saying, like renewable energy is a policy problem more than a technical issue. So then I wanted to apply AI in technical fields to conserve energy or balance energy markets to get more renewable energy onto the grid. Or for example, even in fields such as manufacturing, agriculture, I feel that AI is still underrepresented and it's still catching up. So I wanted to use AI for social good, disaster relief, and any sort of social problem. Also for the manufacturing industry, which I think is in dire need of AI. So that is why I decided to switch into this. I thought I could be more helpful.
Yeah. So while you were doing your master's, did you have any courses or any like basic background that would like facilitate you into this, or was it entirely was it something you developed on your own, the interest?
I would say that so back in bachelor's we had done a face recognition problem, and we wrote a paper on it with some teammates. But then after that, I was away from anything related to machine learning. And in my master's, I did not have any courses at the college that I took in machine learning. But then I took all of the courses that I did were online.
Okay.
And the background that is important for this to get into is, I feel, some sort of coding experience, maybe like 1 year or something. That should be enough to learn these courses on your own.
So you do you think your electronics background or your sustainable energy masters did they contribute in some way for your transition, or was it because of these online courses that you could make this transition?
I would say it's more down to the online courses, because my track was completely different from anything related to AI. So everything was through online courses.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So, which brings me to my next question. So, how did you actually do it? Like you said, online courses. You said which courses did you actually take? Because I get this question a lot, where people are almost every day they see a new course coming out, and then they are like, which course should I take up? Most of the times I would recommend them Professor Andrew Ng's course, which is a class, like you mentioned that already, that you yourself did that. And then there is Fast.ai, which I know you're a very big fan of, and I'm sure you will take their name now. But yeah, so these courses are very, I would say, parallel. They're not the methodologies that they follow in the way they teach. Professor Andrew NG takes the more traditional route, and Fast.ai is the opposite. And yeah, so there are lots of courses that keep coming out. How did you manage to narrow down on certain courses? Yeah, first of all, you can start with which courses you started with, and then how did you narrow down?
Yeah. So initially, I just did a coding specialization to learn coding because I felt I was out of touch. So I took a Java specialization from Duke University on Coursera, which was helpful for me to just implement code and get me familiarize myself with how you code. And after that, I did machine learning by Andrew Ng, which is, I think, a really good course that every person who wants to get into this field needs to be doing. It gives a very good background and rounded idea of the basic concepts that are required to perform any sort of AI modeling. But then after that, I did deep learning.ai, which is the hot field right now in machine learning. I found that course by Andrew Ng, the specialization itself, I learned a lot, but then I could not implement it in practice. Although like there was the math concept and some of the other important things like validation and the details of the machine learning. But as it came to implementing of those on my own, I felt handicapped and I couldn't do them. So then I was looking for some other resource that could help me get into this field to make it more practical. That's where I found Fast AI by Jeremy Howard. It's an online course which is free, and you could start off with introduction to machine learning, which is I found is a really good starting point, which builds upon your machine learning knowledge that you learned from Andrew Ng's course. So the reason why this was helpful is because you don't start off coding from scratch initially. You implement the models in an abstract sort of manner already, and you try to uncover the details layer by layer. And it's a top-down approach, which helps you implement the practicalities instead of the code, which throws off people most of the time. And for someone not coming from a coding background, this is, I think, really helpful for getting into this field.
So you said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you mentioned you were not from a coding background, and when you're coding using all these libraries and Python or R, whatever language you use, so how did you actually build up your coding skills? Can you add on to that as well?
Yeah, so like I said, I did the Java specialization. That was really good for me to get concepts of object-oriented programming, although you don't use that much in machine learning.
Can you please name the course, the Java specialization, by which university or which platform?
Java specialization by Duke University.
On Coursera?
On Coursera, it has a list of 5 courses. So it starts off from very basic concepts and builds up to like a final recommender system project, which is built in Java. So yeah, that is the coding course I took. But after you do Java, then you can handle any coding platform, be it Python or anything else. Yeah, so these days Python is the most used for machine learning, and it's pretty straightforward once you know Java. It's anyone could handle it.
Once you know Java, you can do anything in the world.
True.
Yeah. So anyway, so you learned Java from that, but how did you get started with Python? Did you have any resources for Python, or how did you start?
So machine learning course was on MATLAB. So that is still very user friendly in terms of writing code. And after that, I did deep learning.ai, which was completely in Python. So the way you start off with Python is Stack Overflow. Or if you find if you don't know any answer to any question, you just Google it, and then Stack Overflow should be able to provide most of your answers.
Okay, but is there? I mean, I'm coming back to this. So, is there any resource which would tell you, like, for example, the data structures you would use in Python would be dictionaries, lists, your
yeah.
So it's different from what you would actually use in Java. So, how what do you suggest? So, do you suggest you dive into the code directly, or do you take up a course and then maybe try and start programming? So, how do you go about this?
Okay. So I would suggest that you if you're not from a coding background, you do a specialization, or do just like the basic 2-3 courses of that specialization to get a feel of how coding works. And after that, I would not recommend you to directly go and learn the language Python itself. It's better to start off with the code, because you already have some coding concepts. And if you have any doubts in figuring out what the Python constructs are, you can Google it. That is a better approach, because directly going into the code is in learning a new language again is not feasible, especially when you have already learned another language.
Okay. Yeah, so I get that. So you are saying first do a specialization, learn something, and then you can start moving into actually coding.
Okay. Maybe there is also like Python specializations that people can focus on too. I studied Java just because I thought that was some coding language I needed to learn.
But yeah, so Java is a different language when you compare to Python, right? So Python is more dynamically typed, and Java is very strict with its declarations of variables and stuff like that.
True.
So I would like, of course, I will not suggest people to go and learn Java because they want to get into machine learning and data science, because that would be a waste of their time as well, because not a lot of people actually implement stuff in Java in production today for machine learning right now. I mean, Java is still used as the top enterprise language for applications, but for machine learning products, I wouldn't see its use. But having said that, Java is still a very comprehensive programming language. I would say it has everything you would need to get started with programming, understand what constructs are there. So that was the first programming language I learned as well. So I mean, definitely, if you really want to explore programming, understand the programming side of things, like I think definitely you can explore Java, or even go on further and try and learn C, which is like the mother of all languages. And I mean, you are going more lower level here, but I think really want to get into machine learning and data science, I think Python, like you mentioned, would be a good place to start. More importantly, understand the nits and bits of how programming works, right? Like what are data structures and how do you use them, and what kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we digressed from fast.ai. So you were saying something on fast.ai.
Yeah, so deeplearning.ai by Andrew Yang did not help me in terms of implementing practical models. So I turned to Fast AI, which is a really good resource that everyone needs to check out, I think. If you have basic machine learning knowledge, this is like a really good course for any person from any field to implement codes, because it goes down from a top-down approach, and it really makes you understand how to implement the model rather than build the model from scratch. So you apply the model to a problem, and then in doing so you learn how the model works, which is a better way to learn how it works rather than learn the model, working of the model, and then go ahead.
And fast.ai has multiple courses. If you see, every year they keep adding a new version of their course, right? I think the latest version was added just a month back or something. So what version would you recommend? So there are two main versions. One is the deep learning for coders version, and one is the introduction to machine learning. These are the major divisions, and then deep learning for coders keeps getting a newer version every year. So what version did you do, and what version would you recommend others?
Yes. So I think you have to start off with Introduction to Machine Learning, which dives deep into random forests, which is a very important algorithm, and it gives you like the basic idea of the state-of-the-art machine learning apart from neural networks. Once you're done with that, you can start with deep learning for there are two parts of deep learning, which have versions that keep coming out every year. You can start off with deep learning 1, which the version third of which is released 1 month back, like you said. And yeah, the second part of the deep learning course is going to be out in March, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I would suggest that to intro to ML first from fast.ai, and then you follow up with deep learning 1 from fast.ai, the latest version.
All right. Okay, so fast.ai, deep learning.ai didn't help you that much, but that was a course you did. And then also machine learning by Professor Andre Ng, which is on Coursera. So anything else apart from these resources that you have like specifically referred?
No, just these fast.ai just really brought me to the next level. Before that, I was really struggling. But I think just doing these resources would place you at a good point and at a good level to start off building really good algorithms for the real world.
So when you said next level, I get reminded of the fact that Jeremy retweeted your tweet. I mean, for those who don't know, Jeremy Howard was the president of Kaggle. Kaggle is a very popular website for data science competitions. And he's very active on Twitter as well. So he's the one who runs fast.ai. And the other day, Jeremy had retweeted Santhosh's tweet and he was over the moon. So can you tell us how did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was trying to implement some of these models for the hackathons that I was attending. So one of the hackathons I attended was organized by the Hague, the public department of the Hague. They wanted to classify damages, the damage levels of buildings after a disaster, so they can provide relief based on that information. So we built a model using fast.ai's inbuilt library, and we achieved a really good score, which beat the old state of the art. And yeah, so it was really easy to implement. We could build a neural network in just 20 lines of code, because libraries are very modular, and you can pass in your data if you pass in the data in a specific manner to the code, it can build these things. So Jeremy looked at this, since it was a new state of the art, he retweeted this saying this was, so the aim of fast.ai is to enable other people from backgrounds which are not coding or machine learning specific to get into this field. And he retweeted this saying this was an example of something which could be done by anyone.
Which is really cool. I mean, that's great. I mean, amazing, like Mr. Jeremy Howard acknowledging your work there. So really cool. So, okay, coming to so we've already discussed the resources you use. You already told us what helped you, what didn't help you. Coming to, okay, after you study, what do you do after that? You want to start working in the industry and really get a job so that you can further your knowledge. So how did that phase go? Like, when did that start? How long did it last? Can you describe more of that?
Okay. So when I finished the course, all the courses until Deep Learning 1 by Fast.ai, that was June of last year. And then I was interested in applying this to the real world. So I tried to use Kaggle data sets and try to enter competitions unsuccessfly. I did not win. I haven't won any competition yet, but I slowly started improving because other people post kernels and comments and discussion keeps happening on whichever competition you attend. And the playground competitions in Kaggle are really good for you to get a good hold on what is happening and how you actually have to build a model once you have the skills. So that's a really good place to start. Apart from that, I got lucky in the sense that one of my friends wanted to enter a competition in Switzerland in trying to use these machine learning concepts for a business that he was building. So there I learned like the business side of things, which helps you to understand how to bring this to the as a product, and also to make you understand what sort of issues you are going to face in the real world. So I would recommend that you try to get data sets that are present on Kaggle or public data sets, or there are many competitions that are happening online, hackathons by Analytics Vidya, or that all these places can be really good resources for you to start on with learning, with implementing real models that could be used for the actual environments.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually make yourself differentiate out of everyone else who's applying? Because I also went through this job search phase, and it takes a lot of effort and time on your side. Even though you've done a lot of projects, even though you've done these courses, nobody wants to look at you, and you're not being considered. You're sending in applications, you're getting rejected. So how do you deal with this? What was your methodology? How long did it take for you to actually land up a position?
So I started interviewing in June of last year. That's when I finished my master's, and I was looking for jobs. I had made my mind that I'd want to transition to machine learning and try to find a job in that. So the first two interviews were unsuccessful. So I got data sets which were pretty easy to handle, but I was not so confident of my skills, which is why I did not analyze the data set properly. But then when you the way to get people more attracted to your CV or your resume or your portfolio, say, is to put up like the courses that you have done, and also like the competitions that you have entered. If you have got a really good score, that's a big plus. And also, if you have done any side projects that by yourself, you don't have to enter any competition as such. You could have like a really good model that you have built on any data set that you found was interesting, and do this one. Write a Medium post or a blog post, and use Twitter to share your information. Host your codes on GitHub. Not just host your codes on GitHub, make them readable. Write a good README file so that like, and if anyone wants to access and wants to know more about you, they can go to your GitHub and see that if you have commented them properly, and if it's readable, if it's understandable. Because building models is one part of the problem, but you also want to make it accessible and readable for any person who wants to use it. So attract traction by trying to write blogs and have a really good GitHub portfolio.
So for every project you did, you were making sure that you write a blog post on that, and making sure that you maintain a clean GitHub repo, and all of that. Was that part of your application as well? Like, were you including the GitHub links?
Yes. My blog posts, my GitHub, all these were very important for my job search, I think, at least, because I did not have any background. And these helped me differentiate myself, because despite not having done any courses in college, universities, I was able to put up models and an explainable article that people have liked and asked for suggestions upon. And recruiters actually value this sort of information, even though if you haven't done like an university level course, because they know that you're proactive and you're trying to make it accessible and understandable mainly to the general public.
So the projects that you did, you mentioned you did a few projects. Were they very commonly done projects? Like, for example, almost every other person who's starting out with machine learning would use the MNIST dataset or the Iris flower dataset. But were there something related to that, or were they very unique to yourself?
Yeah, I would say that the projects that you put up on your blogs or GitHub needs to be unique. Do not do MNIST, and those are practice courses, which practice models that you build upon yourself. take a new data set. For example, in my case, I was very interested in rapes that were happening in India. So I took the rape data set from the Indian public. It's hosted on their website, and then I made an analysis on which state has been improving, which state has been reducing. It was not there was no model built over there, just like a Excel, not even Excel, a Tableau analysis of graphs and seeing the pattern of change over time about how these rapes have changed over time in India. So that was my first blog actually, and I shared that to the public community. After that, I started. I took a data set to predict housing prices. So you could. I would suggest that find a data set that interests you, and not like a common data set which like, for example, like you specified MNIST, something which is unique, or something which is interesting for you, so that you can keep going forward, delve deeper into it, and then make an analysis and put it up online.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's what I tell people as well, because if you're using the data sets that you practice on, and the data sets that have introduced you to the field, then every one of the people that have actually come in the field have used that, and it doesn't differentiate you. So we're coming to almost the end of our session. I would so you recently started your job, didn't you?
Yes, I started in February.
And how is that going so far?
It's been really good. My learning curve is very steep. I have to learn what I've learned through my own projects are quite different to what happens in production, because you need to take care of all cases and ensure the data has been passed properly. And the data sets that you work on during projects are very small actually, but then when you come to production, they're extremely big. So you need to figure out a smart way of going about how to collect this data and put this data together to make sense of it. And you'll also be learning.
Sorry, and where are you working, for context for the ones who are watching, and what kind of industry are you working?
I wanted to apply AI in manufacturing, so I was looking something in this field, or supply chain, or anything related to industry. So I got lucky. I applied on LinkedIn, and then there was this company in South Africa, a startup called DataProphet. They're working on optimizing the manufacturing industry using AI and predictive maintenance. And so to give a few examples, they do predictive maintenance and object detection, optical character recognition, and on industrial products, parts, time series analysis of these different products, and find out what are anomalous instances of parts, make the qualities of the products better. So they cut down energy consumption. This is the kind of projects they work upon, and this is very interesting for me.
All right, so we've covered your journey right from the time you started your bachelor's, you did your master's, and then you took up these online courses, and then you had this job interview phase where you were interviewing with, finally you landed up with a job with DataProphet South Africa, and now you're working for them. Yeah, all the best for your future, and I hope that you would go on to do greater things that you've achieved so far. Last bit, we'll take a few questions from the audience. There are a few questions on the live chat, so I will read them out for you, and maybe you can try and answer. So
before that, I would like to just put 3-4 suggestions. I think that would be helpful. So one is, when you're coding, always use a top-down approach in coding, which I've found really helpful. What this means is you already assume what you for example, if you're building a code and you want some kind of an output, you already assume those sort of inputs are already present, and then you can write the code for that piece of information. And then later on, you can decide, okay, these inputs are not present. How do I obtain these inputs? Write a function for that. So you approach from the top to the bottom. I found it really helpful when I'm coding, and I think it's helpful for you as well. That's one thing. Then try to formulate your problems in a mathematical manner, and decide what, if you have certain data, decide what I can do with the existing data to achieve your goals, and also make a note of what extra data you might need to achieve those goals. Okay. That's important. Another thing I think is really helpful is use Twitter to be in touch with the latest trends in AI. There are people tweeting about these latest information in AI and what sort of things you need to get into, the most exciting things that are happening. So I use Twitter as my source for information of the latest happening in AI.
And LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's.
Follow me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Use Twitter, and I think one more point you had, or was that it?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
All right. So I think we have a few questions. Can I proceed with the questions, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Deep Chatterjee, his question was, in day-to-day functioning of ML engineer or data scientist, a lot of data is unstructured, or there is no ready-made data to start with. For a new person in this field, especially from a non-CS background, how could I learn those techniques, like how to build data pipelines or data wrangling?
Okay, so I think for it is something for data wrangling, at least I would go through online resources and try to find something which is helpful for that particular specific problem. For example, if I'm handling a time series information where my information is highly unstructured for my current project right now, so I need to go through a lot of set of files, and it's not I cannot make a simple data frame, but I need to pass through multiple files and make them on the fly. So it was a big challenge for me to understand how to go about these things. So what I did was I just noted what are the important points from each file, so that I can use that for later purposes. And it's hard to specify for a specific problem, for a general problem, but for a specific problem, you need to find out ways which are, I would say, not intensive on the system. So you can use those informations which are present in each file, and try to make things modular. I think that's the most important thing. If you make things modular, then you can fix that piece of code and go on with the next part of the code.
That is, I think, one of the basics of best practices of programming, right? So you have to try and keep stuff as modular as possible. Okay, so next question is from VJ, who asks, which language is most relevant to get started with ML?
Python.
Python?
Python is the best language to start off with, and it not only helps with your normal machine learning algorithms, but then when you get deeper into deep learning, then then you have also libraries that are coming in, which are TensorFlow, PyTorch, and all those things. I personally prefer PyTorch because it's very easy to implement. But yeah, that's
I think Python is the answer there.
Yeah.
And I think Prince wants to know more about the machine learning course by Andrew. Can you please give links for the same? I think Prince can just, I mean, it's the first course that comes up if you search for machine learning, Coursera, and Andrew NG, right? I think that's the course you took, the standard course that.
Yes. That's based on MATLAB, if I'm not mistaken.
Octave or MATLAB, I'm not sure. There was one course in Octave as well.
You could use either of those platforms.
Yeah. But yeah, so Prince, maybe you can just search for N2NG Machine Learning Coursera, and I think that's the course Santhosh did and everyone else does. All right, so we've come to the end. If you have any concluding remarks, Santhosh, please, I mean, this is your time.
Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. But please put a note if you want to ask a specific question and find out any information. I'm always there to help because I've been through this journey and I understand how it's hard and to get up to speed. So you feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you so much, Santhosh, for doing this. I understand how the journey has been for you because I've been following it along with you as well. And I understand how the journey is for the ones who are currently in the process. And that's why I thought this would be a good idea to actually go through, go through journeys of people who have walked along this path. Maybe, and the exciting thing about this field is that there are people from vast fields that are coming in, like different backgrounds. And you never know which is your path. So I think maybe someone is already walking on your path right now, and they see now clearly what their next steps might be. So thank you so much for doing this. And with this, I would like to close the webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Santhosh. Goodbye. Have a good evening, or I don't know what time.
Yeah. It's afternoon. Yeah.
All right. Goodbye. Bye.
See you. Bye.